Hey, it's Saturday. Who am I looking at? My good friend in Colorado, Dewey Freeman. I'm Mark Sylvester.
Good
We
morning,
are
sir.
the Elder Council. Good week.
It's been a fabulous week.
Yeah, that's
And
the answer. It's always the answer, right? You have a choice to how you answer that question in life. How you doing? I'm fucking great. It's like usually like I'm fucking. And they're like, "What? Are you okay?" Yeah, because what's the? It's one of the few things in life we can actually control.
so we might as well just start off with this.
Just go there.
There's a piece, and in I believe in our world where what many people will say is, "Oh, I'm tired," or "Oh, I've been working so hard," and it's almost like a piece of. And I get people work hard. I get people get tired. I'm not, and it's not that. But I don't want to be recognized as a victim.
Yeah.
It's like I work so hard and you go, oh, yeah, I get it. That's a victim statement versus, yeah, I'm fucking fabulous. I'm 71
Yeah.
years old and I can work hard.
Fuck yeah. Yeah.
Or I cannot work hard if I
Yeah.
choose. But
Yeah.
it's like it's and one of the things, and I mean this just came out of my mouth, one of earlier this week, you've said more than once that we don't know something till we say it.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can.
I don't know what I think. I haven't said it yet. And that
Right,
is I wish that was original. But I heard it so many years ago. It's woven into my DNA.
right. So I was supervising a therapist, and this came out of my mouth without thinking. Don't make yourself a victim of something that you've chosen.
Mm. Mm.
So if I've chosen to work 80 hours a week, I'm not a victim of
Hell no.
it. If I've chosen to live where sometimes in the winter there's 5 feet of snow, I'm not a victim of it.
I,
And so,
there's
so if I get
you
five
kind
feet
of
of
wonder
snow, I will be fabulous.
you kind of wonder why people say that. Um, am I trying to get you to, am I enlisting you into, I guess my victimhood and feel bad for me? Oh, woe is me, all of that. And I think if the sooner in life you can figure that out, that's just it's a non-starter. It's also, it's a bit of a conversation killer because it's not uplifting at all. It's
Yeah, not many. The only place to go with that is, well, what made you tired?
right, right.
And that's different than when you say, I'm wonderful, and I can go, what made your week wonderful?
Yeah.
Those
Wow.
are two very different paths.
Yeah, and thankfully I learned both of those really early on in my career. And I've even had people say, "Mark, you're always whenever I call you, you're always wonderful." And I said, "Well, is it okay to be okay? Is it I have a choice because be by my projecting that energy, even though God knows what happened, it doesn't matter to them. They don't need to know any of that. It's like, how are you this sec? I am great. I'm so glad to see you. And what does that do to you when you receive that?
Opens me up,
There you go.
makes me want to be here,
There you go. There you go.
makes me want to have a conversation with you, makes me want to share what's going on in my life.
Rather than commiserating. I
Right.
don't want to commiserate, I mean, and I don't even want to do that. Just take that inside for just a second. Do I want to do that with myself? Do I want to tell myself, God, he's so fucking tired. I'm so busy. All of that, whether, no, you don't need to do that. To your point, you chose those things. It's like, I'm so busy. Hey, thank God you have clients. I'm so
Yes.
busy. Thank God you've got a great job that's keeping you busy. I bet the time flew. I mean, I could turn that cat in a second, but what you're trying to do is so here's the other thing is when you're like that, the people around you are end up being like that because they'll mirror that behavior. And if you're a dad, your kids are going to see, oh, it's okay to whine and complain. Your wife, your spouse, whoever your spouse is, your significant other is going to, hey, you're not a lot of fun to be around. I mean, right?
Right. And then you want to get romantic, and
Yeah, how does that work?
you wonder why this, you wonder why you don't get much of a response.
Exactly. So
So,
today I thought we would talk about tenacity. Been thinking about core values and things. Think of them as maybe tools in our toolbox of life. I'm not sure if I like that metaphor, but think of them as things
mhm.
we use on ourselves, and we know we have that tool when we need it. And tenacity is one of those ones that I love. I absolutely love. And I'm curious, how do you define it? So we start there.
I was actually going to ask you how you define it. So you're one up. You got one on me there. I I think of two things. One, I think of diligence, and I think of not giving up. I I also think of some level of fluidity,
Hmm.
and at times finding option B, C, D, M, N, O, however far you want to go. That that tenacity has to do with a level of fluidity as well as a level of diligence.
So let's contrast that element with two that came to mind when you said that, and let's see if we can contrast and compare and hone in on a
Sounds
definition.
perfect.
So one of the things you said when you said it B, C, D, E, I think of resourcefulness, right? The other thing is sticking to a thing makes me think of grit. Yet in my worldview, those are two separate things than tenacity.
Resourcefulness and grit.
Yeah.
How so?
I think resourcefulness, tenacity to me is um, it's sticking to the thing, whatever the thing you've chosen to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stick through that thing until I decide I'm either accomplished the goal or the goal is unachievable, and I'm self-aware enough to know I'm just, this is fruitless, right? I need to, hey, I failed. Okay, next one. So, but I'm tenacious where nothing is going to, I'm just get out of my way. Grit, grit, I think is different. Grit's dirtier. I like the word grit. It's dirtier. It's just like, man, that dude's got grit. He's just like, oh man, it's just, and I don't have to stick with something. It's just a way I show up. It's got a lot of grit. That guy's going to get that thing done. And the resourceful, like I said, the resourceful is like, it's kind of being able to see around corners a little bit. It's
Mm-hmm.
being able to know, hold it, it's bottom of the ninth, the bases are loaded, there's 2 outs, I need a strike. And they know all my pitches because they've been watching me.
For
And
the first 9 3/4, 8 3/4, 2/3
exactly.
innings.
Yes. And they have all the scouting reports. So I need to be resourceful and do something they haven't seen before. Or I need to be, to me, resourceful
Mm.
is building a particularly provocative Google query so I can get to the answer quickly so I can move on with whatever it is I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I love resourcefulness. It's one of my favorite words, but the tenacity is I I don't give up.
Well, what you're saying makes sense to me. The Um, would you were talking about grit and tenacity. Is there any part of you that feels like grit is a little more somatic and a little more body based,
Yes, very much. There you
and
go.
that tenacity would be a little bit more on the intellectual
Cognitive.
side,
Yeah,
cognitive side?
cognitive. Yeah, there you
So in
go.
some ways we need to combine those.
Which is why we have both of them.
Yes, that makes sense.
Right. So when I think of all these pieces as elements to what make us up, so kind of broken things down into those elements, and you sometimes you I need a little, man, I need to get a little, I need some grit right now. You know,
Need to
I
get some
need
down and dirty.
I need some of that. Or oh, I, I love it. Part of emotional intelligence is an awareness, right? You have an awareness, and
Hmm.
it's when you have that awareness of, oh, the universe is testing my tenacity right now. For some
Right.
reason, the universe doesn't think I've got enough, and it's going to put me in a situation where we can see. Okay, Mark, what you got?
Can see just how much you got.
I've always believed that I early in life, I said, why do I keep getting tested? He said, because you haven't learned the lesson. As soon as you learn the lesson, you won't be tested.
Well, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is I have learned a lesson, and I'm going for more.
Yeah, 101, 201, 301, 401,
Right.
masters, doctorate, postdoc.
Well, white belt. What are they? I
There you
forget that.
go. Yeah.
Is it white belt, yellow belt, green belt, blue, purple?
Now
I forget.
there's tenacity,
Mhm.
sticking with sticking with martial arts from the time I was 50 till I tested at 53 and got my black belt.
Mhm.
Didn't miss a Wednesday night, didn't miss a Saturday, learned the 137 moves, did all this stuff. And it was clearly tenacity.
And I would imagine some level of grit.
Yeah. Especially when my coach was over here and I was working on my bow form. So I had bow
Mhm.
staff is like a broomstick,
Yeah.
working on my bow form in the driveway. And man, I wasn't getting it. I wasn't getting it. And it was right. It was that. How do you think, we like to talk about relationships a lot, relationships
Mhm.
with as a parent, relationships as a partner, relationships at work. What does tenacity look like? Is tenacity a word you think about with relationships?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, here's here's the piece that I see, and a metaphor. And actually, this metaphor was shared with me. So at one point, so I don't get to claim that I put this one together. What I see with people in many relationships is that they enter in and something doesn't work, so they disengage instead of entering in and having where something doesn't work, and then they what if there's a fluidity, they stay with the fluidity and then can guide or move to try something new. And if I enter into a relationship and try something and it doesn't work, and I go, oh, okay, versus staying with it. And here's the metaphor. It's sort of like if you're in a car or vehicle. Now I know that there's some electric vehicles that are a little different than this, but when you pull up to a stoplight, you don't turn your engine off.
Okay.
pull up to a stoplight and your engine is still idling. Just like if I enter into a relationship and something isn't working, I don't shut my engine off. And if I'm going to take this a little bit further, it would be like, so I'm driving my car, stoplight. Oh, okay, got to stop. Shut my engine off, put my key in my pocket. Oh, green light. Pull out my key. Oh, and now it's turned red again. Oh, okay, shut my engine off. Oh, here we go. And all I do is go back and forth with that instead of holding a level of fluidity in relationship. So even if something doesn't work, I can still stay in idle and still have energy moving inside me, which will allow, and that's where the tenaciousness comes in. It's like, yeah, I'm not shutting my engine off. Not quite sure what to do yet. Not quite sure whether I'm going to put it in first gear or reverse, or whether I actually need to go around this corner to get to there. But I'm not going to shut it off. And then maybe where grit comes in is, okay, I live in the mountains and I need 4-wheel drive. So
Do you think that, do you think tenacity is a generational thing?
on some levels, yes.
Do you think tenacity is born out of a relationship with adversity?
I think tenacity is born out of support from others to help you learn to have a relationship with a person.
Okay, so stay with me, doctor, for a second.
So I don't know, and that was my hesitation. I don't think it's just a one being, one person thing.
So I'm studying emotional intelligence right now, reading it again and just becoming one with the concept. And the idea is that you're born, the personality you have, you're born with it, right? That's just that's what the cards you got. That's your personality. Your intelligence, your IQ, is something you're born with. That's what you have. Your EQ, your emotional intelligence, is the thing you can actually improve. You can get better at that. So what I think I just heard was that tenacity is part of emotional intelligence. It's not a personality trait, because it is something you can improve. By definition, it would be part of your emotional intelligence, is your ability to be tenacious. Did I connect that dot right?
Yes, I would agree with that. And I'm going to say an aside thing, and I don't know that today's the day to go there. There is evidence that we can change our intelligence, level of intelligence, and there's also evidence that we literally can open and fire certain genes through relationships that have not been opened. So that's a whole big gig, but I just want to
making a mental note. I want to dig into that one.
However, in response to what you were saying, is yes, I think tenacity is part of an emotional, mostly body-based process. And that place where we can dig into our gut and go, I'm staying.
Okay, so that What's the difference between tenacity and stubbornness?
Fluidity.
Someone said someone's stubborn. They're often right, but they're never wrong.
I've not heard that. I've not heard that before. Stubbornness is, to me, so there's a level of what I would call bracing in stubbornness.
Bracing. What's bracing? Oh, 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 you're
And
getting ready for impact?
possibly getting ready for impact, or it's just, I'm not going to do it. Like,
Oh, I see. I'm
I,
not gonna.
I'm,
I got you.
I'm just going to brace against something. And versus tenacity, there's a fluidity in it.
Bracing's the opposite
Almost,
of
yeah,
fluidity.
you bet. It's like, um, an example would be, can I, with softness, work with my horse to ask my horse to back up? And, or am I going to do it in such a way that even I'll brace my body, which will actually brace a horse? And then my horse won't move. And I'll be going, why is this not happening? Um, in stubbornness, there's a level of bracing. It might be emotional bracing, mental bracing, physical bracing. Usually they go together, but there is a level of bracing.
How do you help? I'm thinking in relationships, one of the parties is being stubborn, and how do you, in a very loving way, change that?
Well, a big part of what I would look at is what's behind the stubbornness. And the way that I would look at it is what needs to happen to get under the brace. Does that make sense? At least
It does, but I'm trying to think without a couple going into therapy, what kind of tool could we give a guy or girl who's listening to understand? Because I think we find those, oh man, you were so stubborn. You could hear that, right? You could hear someone say, you are so stubborn, you're so set, you're so fixed. To your point, you're not fluid. And that's just conflict, just it's just
right.
tons of conflict. And I don't know. I mean, I'm 68. I still haven't figured this out all the way. But how could you? What we're trying to do is be more uncivilized, but more civilized or more divine, if you will. Maybe possibly that's what we pull out.
Uncivilized and connected.
Yeah.
So the two pieces in relationship, one of the biggest things that will help anybody get under a brace is curiosity.
Oh. Okay.
And especially if you're looking at a brace as a process of protection.
So so let's role play this for a second. And I'm being really stubborn about this thing. No, that's how do you come at me?
Well, if I come at you and say, okay, Mark, you're being stubborn, what the fuck, blah, blah, blah. All that's gonna do is help you brace more.
Right.
If I come in and in one way or another start becoming curious about what's happening for you right now.
I'm curious in practice that the other person says, "Oh, you're going all Jedi on me now. Why are you?" He was like, Would that response being, hey, well, I don't want to deal with the bracing. I don't want you to, I want to be this. I'm so stubborn. I don't want to change. And you're trying, and this person, you are trying to get through that, trying to understand it, trying to help. And they see that as, oh, you're just, you're being smarty pants, or whatever it is.
Or
Right.
you read the latest self-help book and
Yeah.
therefore.
Yeah. Who are you? You don't know. I mean, I'm just, I'm doing what I call the pre-buttal, right? The pre-buttal
Totally.
is to figure out, well, how do you do that in a way that will get you to goal, which is to use this as an opportunity to train and an opportunity to maybe help your partner get better. Stubbornness is something that, we can resolve.
If you have come in and offered an opening, which is what being curious is providing an opening for whomever you're working with or being with. One of the biggest pieces and I think it's one of the biggest flaws in our society right now, is lack of patience. So if I'm coming in and saying, yeah, let me help you get under this, or I'm curious of what's behind this, or, what else is happening, or what else happened in your day, or if there's more bracing, and because this is what I typically see happen, it's like, okay, I'll be curious. Oh, you didn't respond. Fuck you. Instead of, I'm curious. You didn't respond. Okay, I'm going to hang here. I'm going to wait.
You're being tenacious.
That would be true. That would be true.
The thing I love about these conversations is the circular nature of them in such a
I
good
know,
way.
isn't it like crazy?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I'm here. And I want to say one other thing. The most of the time when somebody is bracing, they're protecting something. It might be they're protecting their feelings, they're protecting being invaded, they're protecting a level of vulnerability, all of those kinds of things. Well, nobody, if we're protecting, when we feel an attack, we're just going to protect more. And this is all of the principles of many of the martial arts. Power actually is in the softness. If we're coming in,
Exactly.
and it's like, well, here I am. I'll blend with you. I'll connect with you, and I'll let you be there, because there will be a point where people will get it's like, oh, I don't need to protect myself
Because I am safe.
Actually, yeah, because I'm safe.
I
And
feel
in
safe.
fact, you're helping me protect myself.
What I love about this series of conversations is how they have built on one another in a way that 20 weeks ago, had we planned it, we never would have.
Had we been stubborn, you mean?
Fixed, stubborn. I mean, I think all the all the metaphors around fluidity and stubbornness and tenacity being how much is being goal oriented attached to the fuel of your tenaciousness?
Would you say that maybe in a little bit different way?
Well, I'm trying to think that my partner likes to say, if you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there.
Well, True.
Tenacity suggests that you are very intentional about the goal, and the goal has stakes, and they're worth the effort. They're worth the combination of grit and tenacity and resourcefulness to get to the goal, because even though obstacles will come up. So the goal is I want to have a loving relationship. An obstacle comes up, which is stubbornness in the other person. But my goal is a great relationship. So I'm going to, maybe, as you said, I'm going to stop at the light here that's flashing yellow, look around and try to help, because I know
try and figure this one out.
I know that the end goal of a loving, exciting, healthy relationship is really what I want, and that the two of us together are going to get through this, and that's going to take some tenacity.
So here's what comes to mind for me. When I hear the word goal, I hear a fairly narrow process.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, that may not be accurate. I'm just saying that
that's what you heard.
When I look through all of my filters, that's what the word that I would use that supports tenacity is a value.
Explain.
Well, I might have a goal of having a good relationship. My value, and this would be like a personal value. My personal value is that this is what a relationship means to me. Relationship is loving, supportive, et cetera, et cetera. That's my value. And that's what drives my tenacity. Now, it would be easy to say that's a goal. I mean, semantically, it would not be a difficult leap.
Yeah,
and some people might see that as a goal. I might see it as value. Very clearly, they could be the same thing.
A vision that came through my mind is, and I'm going to guess this is true for you, but the tenacious person could, in this confrontation, could be with a boss, could be with a lover, could be with a child, encountering stubbornness. We've been on stubbornness today, we stay on stubbornness. The tenacious one will, okay, right. I need to be resourceful right now, and as I learned from Dewey, I need to be curious right now, because my tenacity says I want this relationship to continue. Simple as that. I just want this. There are a lot of people will go fuck off, and they turn around, they're out, right? And so they're not tenacious, and I think that they possibly, I'm not exactly sure what caused them to just go fuck. I'm gonna bail. I quit. They're a quitter, right? I'm just gonna quit on this. It just got, guess what? It just got hard.
Right.
Just got hard.
And tenacity is not about creating conflict.
Correct.
When we create conflict, we create blocks, and we create that stubbornness.
You're bracing.
Yeah, we create that bracing. Tenacity is not about that. And that's part of why I use the word value versus goal, because there's some possibility, and again, I'm very aware that we can all have different perspectives. Sure. If I have a goal, it's like I'm going to get over there no matter what. A value talks about how I get over there, not whether I get over
there. And then the next definition in that dictionary is the value of getting there.
Exactly. If I busted down a wall to get in a house, I can still get in the house, but I'll be cold, and I'll be, weather will come in, and et cetera, et cetera. if I find a way in that I'm not busting down walls, then getting into a house is a very different process.
So you don't subscribe to the adage, the end justifies the means.
Do not subscribe to that.
Explain that for someone who may not have heard that before.
The end justifies the means. So I do want to say, if we need to purely protect ourselves, if someone is attacking us, like if we're in a dark alley with someone comes at us with a knife, you bet the end justifies the means. You do what you need to do. There are times where that is very appropriate. If I want a relationship to deepen and continue, the end does not justify the means. It matters how I get there.
Mm-hmm.
How I do what I do is really, really important. And since the show is mostly for men, I mean, I hope everyone watches this. But there's a really big difference between sexual assault and making love.
Mm.
The big difference is how that happens, not that it happens. Mm. The actual acts can be very much the same. And I'm saying that this way because many of the people, hopefully, that are watching this are in relationships and loverships, et cetera, et cetera. So how we get to someplace is way more important than getting there. It's actually the same way in horsemanship. It's the same way in raising children.
Oh, so doctor, are you saying it's the journey, not the destination?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Which speaks directly to the ends justifies the means.
I love these journeys, my friend.
Yes, these are wonderful.
I want to end there because I think that we've given people a bunch to think about today, and I would love them to keep a little scorecard. I keep one close all the time, and maybe they write tenacity and stubbornness on there, and then audit themselves for a week.
Wouldn't that be fabulous for that? Actually, so if men in the nation see this, yeah, I would love if they would do that. So maybe on some of the feedback stuff and the Mighty Networks, if someone would write down their experience.
I'd love to hear an example of when you were tenacious, and then when you were stubborn, and we were in your head going, That's why you listen to the show. Dewey Freeman, thank you so much. I look forward to our next conversation, my friend.
Thank you, sir.